Imagine, it is the middle of the night in 2003 in a small village in Iraq, and a man is hiding inside a small underground pit. The entrance to this pit is covered with styrofoam. Suddenly, however, all the lights in the village go out, and American soldiers begin to patrol the entire area. When the soldiers arrive in front of a farmhouse, they spot a rope. Following this rope, they come upon a secret trapdoor. As soon as they open this hidden trapdoor, they discover a pit. Before entering the pit, the soldiers grab a hand grenade to ensure their own safety and prepare to toss it inside. But just seconds before pulling the pin on the grenade, everyone present looks toward the pit and is startled by what they see: a pair of hands emerging from within. Immediately thereafter, a disheveled, bearded man begins to climb out of the pit. Raising his hands high, he looks at the soldiers standing around him and declares, "My name is Saddam Hussein. I am the president of Iraq, and I wish to speak with you." Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. The hunt for Saddam Hussein began in March 2003, immediately following the invasion of Iraq. To oust Saddam from power, the United States formed a coalition force comprising several nations. The justification cited was the allegation that Saddam possessed dangerous weapons. With soldiers from the UK, Australia, and Poland alongside them, American forces launched airstrikes to capture Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. The coalition forces attacked Baghdad with such intensity that within just 3 weeks, the beautiful, well-ordered city fell. However, they failed in one crucial respect. They found no trace of Saddam Hussein. Saddam had suddenly vanished from the city. In the center of a city square, a massive statue had been erected in Saddam's honor. At the conclusion of the war, American troops and a group of anti-Saddam Iraqis gathered at this very spot to celebrate the victory, marking the end of Saddam's 24-year rule. Amidst this, some American soldiers took an American flag and tied it across the face of Saddam's statue. They then began chanting their victory slogans. Witnessing this event, many Iraqi citizens were struck with fear. They believed that by hoisting the American flag, the Americans had perhaps seized control of Iraq's governance. When the American soldiers realized that the Iraqis did not appreciate the display of the American flag, they immediately removed it and replaced it with the Iraqi flag. Moments later, Saddam Hussein's statue was pulled down and toppled. Although Saddam's statue had been smashed and reduced to rubble, the real Saddam remained in hiding. At this juncture, the primary objective of the U.S. military became locating Saddam Hussein and his top-ranking leaders. To track down Saddam and his high-ranking officers, U.S. troops devised a unique set of playing cards. They created a special deck featuring the photographs of the 52 most wanted high-ranking officials. During their downtime, the soldiers would regularly play games with these cards. In reality, playing with this deck served as a mnemonic device, helping them constantly memorize the faces of the most wanted individuals on their list. The ace of the deck, the top target, was Saddam Hussein himself. The second highest targets were his 2 sons, Uday and Qusay. Several months passed following the fall of Baghdad. One by one, they succeeded in tracking down and apprehending a number of their targets. Upon their arrest, these individuals were subjected to various forms of torture and interrogation. However, none of them could provide the U.S. forces with precise information regarding the secret hideouts of Saddam and his 2 sons. When the U.S. military realized that these detainees possessed no accurate intelligence, they came up with a brilliant strategy. They announced a reward of $15 million for the capture of the 2 brothers and $25 million for their father. This announcement of a bounty reignited the hopes of the American military forces. 4 months after the commencement of the war, an Iraqi citizen suddenly appeared at a U.S. military base located in Mosul, Iraq, the country's second-largest city. The informant declared, "Uday and Qusay are hiding in my house." Upon hearing the man's words, the U.S. forces could scarcely believe their ears. The following morning, a contingent of American soldiers arrived at the informant's residence in Mosul. And indeed, they discovered that Saddam's two sons, Uday and Qusay, were hiding inside a massive building. U.S. troops immediately surrounded the structure from all sides and ordered the two brothers to surrender. However, instead of giving themselves up, the brothers fought back. In response to their resistance, the U.S. soldiers launched a missile strike that destroyed the building. Yet, when the soldiers finally entered the structure, they were taken aback, for by that time, both brothers were already dead. Had they survived, the troops might have uncovered the location of Saddam's secret hideout. But with the deaths of the two brothers, the trail leading to Saddam went cold. Many speculated that Saddam might have fled Iraq for Syria, while others believed he had likely perished in the attacks. However, shortly after the deaths of his two brothers, an audio recording suddenly surfaced in which Saddam could be heard expressing his grief over the loss of his two sons. This very recording served as proof that Saddam was still alive. U.S. officials noted that previously, someone had leaked classified information regarding Saddam's two brothers, enticed by the promise of a monetary reward. Consequently, they increased the bounty significantly, announcing that a reward of $30 million would be given to anyone who could provide information leading to Saddam's capture. They hoped that the Iraqi people would realize just how serious America was about finding Saddam. As time passed, numerous operations were launched in an effort to apprehend Saddam. However, all of them ended in failure. Concurrently, they observed that, despite the lure of the reward, no one was coming forward with any new information regarding Saddam's whereabouts. When their initial efforts failed, the U.S. forces revised their strategy. The U.S. military once again began the process of systematically identifying Saddam's top-ranking officials, utilizing the deck of cards system. Several high-ranking officials who had served in Saddam's inner circle were successfully apprehended. Attempts were then made to extract information about Saddam's whereabouts by subjecting these individuals to various forms of torture. Yet, astonishingly, none of them were able to provide even the slightest clue regarding Saddam's hiding place. While the military was preoccupied with tracking down targets identified through the playing cards, an officer named Eric Maddox opted to pursue a completely different approach. Maddox was an Army interrogator attached to the Delta Force. He observed that the individuals they were currently targeting had all belonged to the old regime. However, with Saddam's downfall, they had lost their power, for they had attained their high-ranking positions solely through their connections to Saddam. What Saddam needed now was a specific group of individuals who could provide him with actual protection, a task that could only be accomplished by his personal bodyguards. During his time in power, Saddam's personal security detail was organized into 3 distinct tiers. The first tier consisted of bodyguards who stood guard outside his palace. The second tier comprised guards who would arrive at a designated location ahead of Saddam's arrival to conduct a thorough inspection and ensure that the area was secure. The name of the third most important bodyguard was Hamaya. It was these elite guards who were constantly by Saddam's side. Maddox believed that, in all likelihood, it was these very elite guards who were currently providing protection to Saddam. Maddox knew full well that Saddam would not be found in his hometown of Tikrit, for they had already conducted a meticulous house-by-house search of the entire city. Yet the city still held a glimmer of hope for them, for it was home to the al-Mushlith family. Most of Saddam's top bodyguards had been recruited from this very family. Maddox arrested every single member of the family and subjected them to interrogation. Whenever Maddox questioned them, only one name repeatedly escaped their lips: Mohammed Ibrahim Omar al-Mushlith. The more Maddox learned about him, the more convinced he became that he was on the right track. Mohammed Ibrahim was not merely a trusted bodyguard of Saddam, he was, in all probability, the leading figure in the ongoing resistance against the U.S. occupation. He had deployed key individuals across various locations to orchestrate attacks against U.S. forces. If Mohammed Ibrahim was, in reality, leading the operation in Saddam's stead, then he undoubtedly knew exactly where Saddam was hiding. Mohammed Ibrahim now became the primary target of the U.S. forces. To capture Mohammed Ibrahim, Maddox arrested his nephew. Ibrahim's nephew, in turn, provided information regarding his uncle's two business partners and his driver Bashim Latif. Subsequently, they arrested Bashim Latif and his two business partners and began interrogating them. Through these interrogations, the U.S. forces uncovered a wealth of additional information regarding Mohammed Ibrahim's activities. They even managed to pinpoint the location of Mohammed Ibrahim's son, Mushlith. Their next move was to arrest Mushlith and begin questioning him. Initially, they suspected that Mushlith might not possess any particularly useful information. However, he shared a piece of information that proved to be quite intriguing. He revealed that he used to go fishing occasionally with his father at a pond located in the city of Samarra. His father, in fact, owned the pond. He explained that due to the war, he no longer went fishing there with his father. However, he was certain that his father still visited the pond. It was at that precise moment that Maddox suddenly recalled a previous interrogation he had conducted with Saddam's housekeeper. The housekeeper had mentioned that Saddam loved eating masgoof, a type of fish that is extremely popular in Iraq. Suddenly, the entire mystery cleared up for Maddox, becoming as transparent as water. He became convinced that Mohammed Ibrahim held the key to locating Saddam. Subsequently, U.S. soldiers proceeded to search the fishing farm where Mohammed Ibrahim used to fish. There, they encountered two fishermen, however. They found no trace of Mohammed Ibrahim himself. Upon arresting and interrogating the two fishermen, the soldiers discovered that one of them was the cousin of a leader in the anti-U.S. resistance. He revealed that he had an uncle living in Baghdad and that Mohammed Ibrahim was hiding at his uncle's house. When the Special Forces team finally arrived in Baghdad, they were in for quite a surprise, for it was here that Mohammed Ibrahim Omar al-Muslith was located. Special Forces arrested him and, in the process, detained 40 members of his family. Maddox personally interrogated him, promising, "I will protect you and your family, provided you reveal the whole truth." Under pressure, Mohammed Ibrahim disclosed the location of Saddam's secret hideout. Saddam Hussein was hiding in a small farming village called Al-Dawr. Subsequently, taking Mohammed Ibrahim into custody, U.S. soldiers set out for Al-Dawr. Upon arriving, they proceeded to the northern bank of the Tigris River, where Ibrahim pointed toward a farmhouse. This farmhouse was, in reality, little more than a two-room shack. When the soldiers entered the building, they found no trace of Saddam. Yet, they were certain that Ibrahim possessed knowledge regarding Saddam's whereabouts. He simply did not wish to reveal Saddam's secret sanctuary. After standing in silence for some time, the soldiers followed a rope they noticed, which led them to a carpet. Beneath it, they discovered a trapdoor, and there, hidden inside, was Saddam Hussein. United States military forces captured Saddam Hussein alive. Saddam had sought to sell oil in euros, not merely to defy American subservience, but to resist the unjust global hegemony of the U.S. dollar. In retaliation, using the false pretext that he was concealing weapons of mass destruction, they devastated his country and ultimately executed him on the day of Eid.